the great Theodosius the Great. Theodosius was the 69th emperor of the Roman Empire. He was an emperor from 379 AD to 395. So that's, what, 16 years? And in his 16 years, he fucked a lot of shit up. Most notably, the Olympic Games. So Theodosius is the last emperor to rule over both the eastern and western halves of the Roman Empire. When he takes the crown, he's got to fight against the Goths and the so-called barbarians. He failed to kill, expel, or entirely subjugate them, and after the Gothic War, they established a homeland south of the Danube in the Illyricum within the empire's borders. So what does this mean? Fuck the Olympics. Fuck the Olympics, according to Theodosius the First. Let's do a little bit of math, okay? So the Olympic Games they had the beginning date as being 776 BC, right? So the Olympic Games are older than, the mythical Jesus. And 776, and then it goes on to 393 before Theodosius says, in the name of Christianity, fuck the Olympics, fuck the feats of strength and, the scientific progress. It's all about bowing down to your master, enjoying that slave's religion that doesn't give you any morality. It's not a good basis for a civilization. It's a good basis for you to be an obedient, dumbass dog who's just going to accept whatever bullshit comes your fucking way. And so that's Theodosius. Theodosius says Christianity is going to be the state religion, and not just Christianity, but Orthodox Nicene Christianity. Are you an Orthodox Nicene Christian? Is that what kind of Christian you are? Before this Christian zealot, before this Christian tyrannical, dictating, low-life piece of shit, violent psychopath, Theodosius the Great. Theodosius the Great. The Olympic Games have been going on over 1,000 years. They had started, in 776 BC. And then it goes on until 395 or, about 400 AD. So that's 1,000 years. So for over 1,000 years, the Olympic Games have been going on. Then all of a sudden, Theodosius the Great says, fuck the Olympic Games because of the pagan rituals. I mean, it was very much in, honor of Zeus and all these Olympic gods, these Roman and Greek gods. Those are the pagans. You also have Muslims and atheists. So anybody who isn't an Orthodox Nicene Christian was attacked, and their temples burned. Nicene Christianity just comes from the First Council of Nicaea, when it was determined that Christianity was going to adopt all these pagan rituals and holidays, and anything that couldn't be adopted into Christianity, they wiped out. That's why Easter, you're celebrating a bunny rabbit. That's why on Groundhog's Day, you're still listening to a groundhog predict the weather. That's why on Christmas, you have all this weird shit, right? You got Coca-Cola and Santa and reindeers and what? What do they got to do with Jesus? Oh, yeah, because it all started from the pagans. All these celebrations came from the pagans, right? So the First Council of Nicaea, which was Roman Emperor Constantine, 325 AD, that's when everything changed, the First Council of Nicaea. Now, that's when Jesus was begotten. Not made. Jesus was begotten. Not made. He came from, but he wasn't Jesus Christ, who there's very little historical evidence for. There's plenty of historical evidence for Gilgamesh. Let's talk about the great feats that Gilgamesh has actually brought forth. That would be smarter than Jesus. But the Nicene Creed established that Jesus Christ is begotten, not made. Which means that Jesus isn't just a mortal. He's not a mere person, a human being. He's better than that. He wasn't brought into this world out of nothing, just a bunch of sperm and an egg, and then voila, here he was. No, not Jesus. He's the true Son of God. And being the true Son of God, that means that he was brought into being from the substance of the Father. So he was brought into being. He was already here, right? So he just actualized into existence. He wasn't created. So that's some more insanity. So that's the Nicene Creed, right? Theodosius the Great had to destroy Olympics in the name of Christianity. He wanted to go to the Olympic Games today. The modern Olympic Games began in 1896. So it was a revival, right? It came back, and it was the International Olympic Committee had been created by Pierre de Coubertin, and it was held in Athens, Greece from April 6th to the 15th, 1896. So happy first Olympics Day. That's what April 6th is. And so 1896 was the first modern day Olympics. 1896, it was banned in 400 AD, so that's 1,500 years. So for 1,000 years, over 1,000 years, the Olympic Games are being played, and then all of a sudden you got this crazy Christian zealot, Theodosius, the not great, the Theodosius, the, piece of shit. So Theodosius, the piece of shit, cancels out the Olympic Games because he wants to go to heaven. He wants to make God the Father, have some quick math. You have over 1,000 years worth of Olympics, and then 400 AD, Theodosius, the piece of shit, cuts it out, and then for 1,500 years past that, there are no Olympic Games. So the Christian Inquisition, was so powerful that there was no more Olympic Games because they believed, the Romans thought they believed in Zeus and all these other gods, and that's paganism. You have to either believe the way of the Christians, or the Christians were going to murder you and kill you and ostracize you. He's going to go to war. Theodosius is going to go to war over this shit. He did a bunch of stuff. He issued decrees that made Nicene Christianity the official state church of the Roman Empire. He didn't prevent nor punish the destruction of the prominent Hellenistic temples of classical antiquity, including the Temple of Apollo in Delphi and the Serapeum in Alexandria. He dissolved the order of the Vestal Virgins in Rome was dissolved, so he's dissolving these orders. He's making Christianity the official state religion. Everybody best bow down to the same God that he believes in, or else you'll die. He's criminalized the magistrates who didn't enforce the anti-pagan laws. He broke up a bunch of pagan associations, and he destroyed pagan temples. He also issued all these decrees. So if Theodosius wasn't murdering pagans himself, he wanted his people to, wipe them out. And that's the line of demarcation. Past Theodosius, it's all Christianity from here on out. So he was very much a, right-wing fascist. He was a right-wing Christian fascist, instituting Christian Sharia law, and Christians would murder and kill and pillage like the barbaric assholes they are for thousands of years, for centuries, the Dark Ages, up until the Spanish Inquisition. Theodosius issues this edict, and he establishes a ban on paganism. No more visits to the temple. Pagan holidays are abolished. The sacred fire in the temple of Vesta in the Roman Forum extinguished. Vestal virgins disbanded. The auspices and witchcraft was punished. Theodosius refused to restore the altar of victory in the Senate House as requested by pagan senators. So he became emperor of the whole empire, 392, the last one to do so. And then from this moment until the end, for 3 years, while pagans remained outspoken in their demands for toleration, he didn't give a shit. He authorized or participated in the destruction of many temples, holy sites, images, and objects of piety all throughout the empire, and actions by Christians against major pagan sites. He issued a comprehensive law that prohibited any public pagan ritual, and he was particularly oppressive of the Manichaeans. And he killed there was a big riot. The population of Thessalonica had rioted in complaint against the presence of the local Gothic garrison. So they didn't like the Goths. You had some of the Goths who were coming into the Roman legions. They didn't like these. They were barbarians, and now we're accepting them. What the hell's going on here? The garrison commander was killed in the violence. So once the leader of the Goths was killed, Theodosius, he had to punish the people of Thessalonica. And so what did Theodosius did? Well, he said, hey, everybody, come to the circus. And once everybody came to the circus and they were all ready to watch this entertaining show, Theodosius ordered the Goths to kill them all. I mean, he's the Christian leader, right? This is what Christians do. They murdered a bunch of Goths, killed all the spectators in the circus as retaliation for that one man who got killed, that one Goth. Wasn't even Roman. You have the Thessaloniki massacre of, 390. So the Thessaloniki massacre was Theodosius' undoing, but he's going to, change his ways after this. So about 7,000 people had died. The anger of the emperor rose to the highest pitch, and he gratified his vindictive desire for vengeance by unsheathing the sword most unjustly and tyrannically against all, slaying the innocent and guilty alike. It is said 7,000 perished without any forms of law, without having any judicial sentence passed upon them, but that, like ears of wheat in the time of harvest, they alike were cut down. So he killed everybody. But the Bishop of Milan, St. Ambrose, said that you're excommunicated. You're out of the Catholic Church for this massacre. That is not what a Christian would do. So good job for St. Ambrose. But then Theodosius becomes a right-wing extreme zealot, and he kills pagans now. Theodosius was worried about Maximus taking all the provinces of the West except for Italy. Now, he was, hostile to Theodosius' interests, but there was a mutual respect there. But when Maximus invaded Italy, Theodosius had to do something. I just like the guy's name, Magnus Maximus. This is the enemy of Theodosius, so therefore Magnus Maximus is my friend. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Right, Stalin? World War II? You know what I'm talking about, FDR lovers. So what all did he do? The Martin of Tours attacks on holy sites in Gaul. This all happened under Theodosius. The destruction of temples in Syria by Marcellus. The destruction of temples and images in and surrounding Carthage. The ruination of the temple at Delphi. The desecration of the mystery cult in Ulysses. The arch Theophilus, who seized and destroyed pagan temples in Alexandria. The leveling of all the temples in Gaza. And the wider destruction of holy sites that spread rapidly throughout Egypt. So 393 was when the last Olympic Games was recorded, 393 AD, and it was, suppressed. It had all those pagan gods and all this, so Theodosius was like, fuck this shit, I'm not going to put up with this pagan bullshit. So get the fuck out of here, goddamn pagans. So that's Theodosius, right? Now, to look at what we have, the gods. Think about the gods. There was one article I read that said, oh, Theodosius wouldn't do that. Theodosius was a good Christian man. Why would he do something like that? It's not like he would perform a massacre of Thessalonica. He wouldn't kill 7,000 people just for no fucking reason whatsoever. That's not Theodosius Theodosius wanted to wipe out all the pagans, all the Muslims, all the atheists, all the agnostics, all the Roman and Greek god lovers, even the people that believed in Zeus and, Mars and Venus and all the rest. So he was, declaring war against paganism, those who was an enemy against Christianity, which is ironic because the Romans were the ones that killed Jesus. Pontius Pilate killed Jesus. Yeah, they like to throw the Jews under the bus. It wasn't the Jews, it was the Romans. And the Romans now are sitting there trying to be like, we're the ones who love Jesus the most. No, you're the motherfuckers that killed him, okay? Who are you trying to fool? Theodosius had to fight a war in 393 AD, which is when he ended the Olympics, against Eugenius and Arbogastes. The battle that ensued was a battle for the survival of paganism. And Eugenius was defeated by Theodosius in 394. And so once Eugenius was killed and defeated by Theodosius in 394, that led to the final separation of paganism from the state. Theodosius visited Rome to attempt to convert the pagan members of the Senate. Being unsuccessful in this, he withdrew all state funds that had been set aside for the public performance of pagan rites. Public performance, pagan rites. From this point forward, state funds would never again be made available for the public performance of pagan rites, nor for the maintenance of pagan temples. So that's why the Olympic Games was wiped out for 1,500 years, because of Christianity, because of Orthodox, Nicene Christianity that the Roman Empire instituted, even though the Roman Empire hypocritically were the ones that murdered so-called Jesus, if Jesus even fucking existed. Even if that story was real, there's so much bullshit, there's so many holes in that story. What the fuck? How can you believe any? Christianity wipes the Olympic Games out for 1,500 years. What brings it back? Well, 1896. People were just sad. They're like, hey, let's bring it back, and so they brought it back. That's not the focus I'm going to bring it back to, but the Olympic Games was, postponed because of Christianity, because of Theodosius, the fucking piece of shit, right? The grape, Theodosius the grape. And it was forgotten for over 1,500 years. Before 1896, they reestablished it in Athens, Greece, and that's what we know today. But in 1796, The other entity that tried to resurrect the Olympic Games was the anti-Christian regime of revolutionary France. This is before Napoleon, okay? Before Napoleon fucks up the revolution, these, revolutionaries, these anti-slavery revolutionaries, also wanted the Olympic Games. 1996, which would be exactly 100 years before the Olympic Games that we know today was established, in the revolutionary France, in the anti-Christian regime of revolutionary France, the Olympic Games were reinstituted, but it was short-lived. They called it the Olympiade de la République Festival. In France, it revives the Olympic competition. The first significant attempt to emulate the ancient Olympic Games was the Olympiade de la République, a National Olympic Festival held annually from 1796 to 1798. So I guess Napoleon went ahead and fucked that shit up too. These goddamn tyrannical imperialist motherfuckers only care about their own power, their own wealth. They don't actually give a shit about, the people's health. Olympic Games, this is, athletic prowess. This is good stuff. You need to exercise. Eat right, exercise. Thing about the 1796 French Olympic Games, the Olympic Games in revolutionary France, is that they introduced the metric system into the sport. So the metric system, this is the system that we should be using. Why does 12 inches equal a fucking foot? Who comes up with this stupid ass shit? And then inches, it's just made up. It's like, people just fucking made this shit up. And, of course, which they did. But the metric system is universal. Everybody understands the metric system, but we're still, God, we're just a bunch of backwards assholes. No, it's not soccer. It's not football. It's soccer, right? It's not a foot. It's a meter. It's not a yard. It's a meter. Or it's not a meter. It's a yard. Get the fuck out of here, man. The first event, there was over 300,000 spectators at the Champ de Mars. It was held on a significant attempt to emulate the ancient Olympic Games was revolutionary France in 1796 on September 22nd. September 22nd, 1796. There was over 300,000 spectators at the Champ de Mars. Festivities included opening ceremonies dedicated to peace and fertility, foot races, sprints, right? Foot races, equestrian events, and chariot races. The closing ceremony involved fireworks and an all-night festival. Foot races, horse races, chariot races, a lot of races. So this is good. This is a good thing. Revolutionary France wanted to bring these games back, and these games were a good thing for ancient Greece. They're good for us now. This is, who's the fastest runner in the world? We wouldn't know these things if we couldn't put everybody together and have them compete. The long jumper, the Haitian. There's fewer events than the modern games in the ancient Olympics, and only free-born Greek men were allowed to participate in, just the Greeks. There were some victorious women chariot owners, but only free-born Greek men, the only ones who could vote, were the only ones who could participate. And as long as they met the entrance criteria, athletes from any Greek city-state and kingdom were allowed to participate. So any Greek athletes from Greek city-states and kingdoms were allowed to be there, although the Hellenodiki, the officials in charge, allowed King Alexander I of Macedon to participate in the games only after he proved his Greek ancestry. So if you could prove your Greek ancestry, the games were always held at Olympia, rather than moving between different locations like the modern games, and then the victors at the Olympics were honored and their feats chronicled for future generations. So I'm pretty excited for myself right now. I'm cooking some steaks, some baked potato. Started out with just getting rid of some bacon. I baked half a pound of bacon, and all that bacon grease was still left in the pan. So I put the steak inside the bacon grease, and I put this pineapple teriyaki sauce, this pineapple teriyaki sort of marinated, and I'm cooking it in it right now. I don't know how it's going to taste. I also sprinkled some of that, it's garlic, but it's like, I don't know, fancy California garlic or some shit, some kind of spice, and I threw some baked potatoes in there. So I'm going to put some butter on top of the baked potatoes, and I put some cheese on top of it, probably put some of that marinade juice and bacon grease, and pieces of bacon, and my favorite, potato toppers. Love potato toppers, man. I only could get them at Save-A-Lot, but I've been finding them more and more these days. My ex would always pretend like, she just come up with this or that idea. She has no consistent convictions or morality or principles whatsoever. She just kind of melds herself to the other person and then just repeats that person's words. So she's just a kiss ass who has no values whatsoever. So essentially, she's stuck up, a fat Hillary Clinton supporting pig's asshole. She's stuck up his asshole so much that she's become an asshole. She is a dingleberry. She is the dingleberry of an asshole. So she's an asshole dingleberry. My ex is an asshole dingleberry. Just obedient. There's a difference between house Negroes and field Negroes. This is a Malcolm X distinction. I'm a field Negro. She's a house Negro. Complete opposites. Complete opposites. So Jesus was begotten, but he wasn't made. Okay? Shaken, not stirred. So you have a few competing legends, the origins to the Greek festival of the Olympic Games. So to the Greeks, it was important for the Olympic Games to be rooted in their, mythical fucking bullshit, right? Tie it to the gods. And they had 3 different competing stories here that Wikipedia has mentioned, and I'm going to explain them. Okay, so the first one is attributed to somebody named Pindar, and according to Pindar, the festival at Olympia involved Heracles, and Heracles is the Greek counterpart to Hercules. To the Romans, it was Hercules, but to the Greeks, it's Heracles. So Heracles, the son of Zeus, after he completed his labors, had an athletic festival. A quick, simple story is Heracles, the son of Zeus, works all day, and then at the end, he has an athletic festival to honor his father. So after he completes his labors. So I'm not for sure what his labors were specifically. It says 12 labors. Oh, okay, so I guess he had the big fucking, I got to do 12 labors, right? The labors of Hercules, Heracles. This is the greatest of the Greek heroes, whose name was later Romanized as Hercules. So Heracles, Hercules, had to do 12 different fucking things. For 12 years, he had 12 difficult feats called labors in the 12 years. And then once he finished all of them, then he inherited the world and became the greatest emperor of all the land. That's not true, but that's one myth. I mean, isn't that, this is kind of fun, right? There's 3 different myths here. So I'm already liking the Greek pagans. These pagans are okay by me. They're better than the Christians. No wonder Theodosius, whatever that motherfucker is, Theodosius, the piece of shit who banned the Olympic Games in the name of Christianity, he is wrong, absolutely wrong. So, I'm an atheist. I'm actually an anti-theist. I think all, gods are wrong, but there's actually something to be learned here, right? So, he has, Hercules goes through his 12 labors, and then he establishes an athletic festival to honor his father. So what a nice guy, right? Goes through all these feats of strength, is able to succeed, and then at the end has an athletic festival, right? So I assume the 12 labors was the first labor. The first of the 12 labors that he had to do is the Nemean lion, the Nemean lion. And the Nemean lion is just this woman who takes hostages. She feigns injuries, and then when the man comes in to save her, she turns into a lion, and she eats them, kills them, and gives the bones to Hades. That's the Nemean lion, and so I guess he had to kill her or something. So that's the first labor, just to give you an idea of what it is that Hercules was actually doing. So that's the first myth. There's 2 more coming up. But isn't this better and this fun? So as an atheist, I know all this shit is bullshit. None of this is true. None of these, stories, there was never any of these gods. None of this actually happened. But to, who come up with the story and what's it based on? And, with jealousy and love, these are virtues that transcend throughout history. So even though I know it's all bullshit, it's fun. I think it's all fun. Choose your own adventure. Which one of these 3 legends do you want to believe is the origin to the Olympic Games? The other myth is the story of Pelops. So old Pelops, okay? So Pelops is actually going to be an Olympian hero. So Pelops, okay, he's just a man. All these are mortals. None of these are gods. But the king of Pisa, Greece, is named Onomos. Onomos. Oenomos. Oenomos. What a stupid name. Just O. Oenomos. Oenomos. So the O king, fuck it. The king of Pisa. O king. And he had a beautiful daughter named Hippodamia. According to an oracle, the king would be killed by her husband. So the O king, Mr. O, was, had a beautiful daughter, right, named Hippodamia. So Hippodamia is the daughter of King O-ring. And so King O was scared that the oracle was scared of her future husband because the oracle had said that he was going to kill her. So whoever Hippodamia was going to marry, that was going to be the man that was going to kill King O, according to the goddamned oracle. So he decreed, the king was like, all right, okay, so I got to pay attention to this. He was like, all right, if you want to marry my daughter, that's fine, but you got to drive away from my palace down that road right there. When you marry her, but drive down that road, okay? It's that road in the chariot, just right down there. And the reason why he wanted to do that was so he could follow them and kill them. Follow the man and kill him as they were driving away. So that's how he was going to save himself. If he killed the husband before he killed, sort of fuck them before they fuck you kind of thing. So he was going to spear the suitor. So I guess they're, that's old school, right? When people talk about, hey, I'm old school. Oh, okay, so you go around spearing people. The king's chariot horses were a present from the god Poseidon. Okay, so now we're getting into some, silly season. It's silly season now. Poseidon is one of the 12 Olympian deities of the pantheon in Greek mythology. 12 Olympian deities. So I guess one of the 12 important of the fucking gods in the pantheon. So he's a big fucking dude. His big thing is the ocean. Poseidon's the ocean. He's the god of the sea. Additionally, he's known as the earth shaker because he causes earthquakes. So that's pretty fucking significant, right? The earthquakes, storms, and horses. So the other sea gods that are analogous to Poseidon, you have Nethunes in Etruscan. It's adopted in Latin for Neptune in Roman mythology. So Nethunes in Etruscan and Neptune in Roman mythology. So Neptune. Poseidon is Neptune. Neptune is Poseidon. So this is exciting. Linear B tablets show that Poseidon was venerated at Pylos and Thebes in pre-Olympian Bronze Age Greece as a chief deity. So he's the chief deity, but he was integrated into the Olympian gods as the brother of Zeus and Hades. So which one is it? He's the chief deity, or he was integrated into the Olympian gods as the brother of Zeus and Hades. So Zeus, Hades, meet Poseidon. According to some folklore, he was saved by his mother Rhea, who, according to some folklore, he was saved by his mother Rhea, who concealed him among a flock of lambs and pretended to have given birth to a colt, which was devoured by Cronus. Okay, so his mother Rhea saved him, concealed him amongst the flock of lambs, pretending giving birth to a colt. What? His mother, no, I didn't give birth to a god. I gave birth to a colt, and Cronus ate the colt. So don't worry, I had no, progeny to take over my legacy. There's a Homeric hymn to Poseidon, who is the protector of many Hellenic cities, although he lost the contest for Athens to Athena. Athens. He lost the contest for Athens to Athena. According to the references from Plato in his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, the island of Atlantis, was the chosen domain. None of that actually matters because this has to do with Pelops, and Pelops is going to be the man who falls in love with Hippodamia, and now the king Onassis, Onomos, is going to be pissed, and he's going to have to kill, this Pelops, unfortunately. And so Poseidon just gave him the chariot horses that was the fastest, supernaturally fast, because Poseidon gave the horses to King Oenomas. Okay, so that's a total bullshit. But what the fuck ever. The plan is when the daughter marries the husband, they're gonna go down that road that he pointed out and down a chariot, and he's gonna come, with his faster chariot, and he's gonna catch him, and he's gonna spear the husband to fuck him before he fucks him. To fuck him over before he fucks him. Right? Sexy Pelops, okay? So sexy Pelops is going around with his badass, sexy self. He's like Justin Timberlake. He's bringing sexy back. All right? He's like, hey, I'm bringing sexy back. Side note, go out and buy some potato toppers. They're delicious toppings for your potatoes. Potatoes are bland. They need some potato poppers or toppers to make them pop. So you can have some poppers. Anyways, watch the Revolution 89.5, the FM in Pueblo, Colorado. So you have Pelops, who's this sexy, man who eventually gets Hippodamia they want to fuck each other. They do fuck each other. The king's daughter falls in love with him. And before the race, she persuaded her father's charioteer, Myrtilus, to replace the bronze axle pins of the king's chariot with wax ones. So Myrtilus is actually going to be the one who kills the king. Myrtilus. Isn't that fucking ironic? Since everybody knew that the king was going to kill this boy, now the daughter killed the king first. The daughter got the charioteer, Myrtilus, to replace the bronze axle pins with wax ones. Bronze is metal, wax is, wax. Of course, it's just going to fall apart. So during the race, the wax melted and the king fell from his charioteer and he was killed, or from his chariot. So King King Ono is now dead, right? He fell from the chariot. He's fucking dead. At the same time, the king's palace was struck by lightning. And it burnt down, save for one wooden pillar that was revered in the Altis for centuries and stood near what was to be the site of the temple of Zeus. Pelops was proclaimed the winner. He won, right? Because, fucking dad really spells, doom for King Ono. So King Ono falls down. Oh no! He falls down and he dies. And then King Ono, when he falls down and dies, then lightning strikes his palace and burns his whole fucking house down, except for one pole. So that's his whole legacy, right? That man's dead. He's deader than a doornail. And now you got Pelops. So Pelops, he can cleanse himself of this, crazy coincidental fucking death. When he was racing the king, all this shit happened. So he was proclaimed the winner, right? I guess running, dad's dead. So Pelops is the winner, and he marries Hippodamia. After his victory, Pelops organized chariot races as thanksgiving to the gods and as funeral games in honor of King Ono in order to be purified of his death. So the Olympic Games are for King Ono, put on by Pelops. So it was this funeral race, this chariot race held at Olympia that the beginnings of the Olympic Games were inspired by. Pelops became a great king, and he was a local hero, and guess what? He gave his name to the Peloponnese. Pelops, the Peloponnesian people, the Peloponnesian War. Peloponnese is a country. It's a region of Greece. It's the traditional region of Greece. So Greece is like a whole, smattering of islands, but the Peloponnese or the Peloponnesus is a peninsula and the geographic region in southern Greece. So it's separated from the central part of the country by the Gulf of Corinth. During the late Middle Ages and the Ottoman era, the peninsula was known as Morea, and named still in the Peloponnese peninsula. You have the first Olympic Games. The first Olympic Games were held at Olympia, which is in the western Peloponnese. That was in 776 BC. Remember, 776 BC and then 393 AD. So, 1,000 years, it was banned, or it was not banned. It was going strong. For 1,000 years, it went strong. banned by Theodosius for Christian reasons in the name of Christianity. Got rid of the Olympic Games from 393 AD until 1896, 1,500 years. So 1,500 years, Christianity killed the games. They were going for 1,000 years, then they were killed for 1,500, and now they've been going on for 1,000 so years. So we're getting back on track, but we could go backwards. In 776 BC is sometimes used to denote the beginning of the classical period of Greek antiquity. So the beginning of the Olympic Games is the chapter, one of the first chapters of Greek history. So the Peloponnese was at the heart of the affairs of ancient Greece. So Peloponnese, that island, that was fucking Greece. That's what we're talking about when we talk about Greece. Peloponnese, named after Pelops. And you didn't know shit about old Pelops. Maybe you did, I don't know. I didn't know anything about it until reading up on this. This is all because the Olympic Games began on April 6, 1896, the modern Olympic Games. So this is a holiday, Happy Olympic Games Day. This is all the history, and I'm showing the gods, the pagan gods, that the ancient Greeks believed in, and that's why Theodosius would have fucking... The bloodiest battles in ancient Greece happened on Peloponnese Island, or the peninsula, and it also possessed some of its most powerful city-states, including Sparta. Sparta and Olympia is both in Peloponnese, Corinth, Argos, and Megalopolis. So Megalopolis, Argos, Corinth, Sparta, Olympia, all these cities are in Peloponnese. On the Peloponnese, I guess that's how you're supposed to say it. And it was the homeland of the Peloponnesian League. Soldiers from the peninsula fought in the Persian Wars. It was also the scene of the Peloponnesian War of 431 to 404 BC. The entire Peloponnese, with the notable exception of Sparta, joined Alexander's expedition against the Persian Empire, along with the rest of Greece. The Peloponnese fell to the expanding Roman Republic in 146 AD when the Romans razed the city of Corinth and massacred its inhabitants. We have the Hercules story, right? Hercules just wanted to give thanks to Zeus, and so he has all these athletic festivals, all these athletic games after he completed all his labor. So it's like he did his chores. Now he's, throwing a party for dad. So, sweet old fucking Heracles. That's what the Greeks would have called him, Heracles. We call him Hercules because we're assholes like that, right? We got to change shit. Football's fucking soccer. We don't want to measure in equal increments of 10, right? We don't want to have nice meters and centimeters, and, we don't want to measure in increments of 10 kilometers. We want to, kilometers. We really want to fuck shit up, right? 12 inches to a foot, 3 feet to a yard. Who makes this shit up? What, King John? Like, the inch is like, King John's fucking thumb? Fuck King John. I thought we overthrew this monarchist system, but look at the culture. The culture is still embedded here in Hercules honors his father with an athletic festival after he completed his labors, maybe, or it was Pelops, and Pelops had beat King Ono because his wife got the charioteer to replace the bronze pins with wax ones, and he fell from his chariot and died. So essentially, because his daughter killed him, his daughter, set him up with Myrtilus. It was Myrtilus that actually did it, so it wasn't Hippodamia. Myrtilus is the one that should be held responsible, but apparently Myrtilus didn't object, right? So you got that. Pelops organized the chariot races as thanksgiving to the gods and as funeral games in honor of King Ono, right? So it's kind of the same thing. It's not the son-in-law is given honor to his, father-in-law versus the son given honor to his father. One, for a funeral. Last myth is that there's this one guy, his name's Heracles, but it's not the same Heracles that we know as Hercules. It's a different Heracles, probably just a regular fucking dude, is a dactyl, whatever a dactyl is. And four of his brothers, Paeonius, Epimedes, Lasius, and Idas, they raced at Olympia to entertain the newborn Zeus. So Zeus, right, the god of gods, isn't he like fucking, that's the Allah, that's the Alpha and the Omega, right? Fucking Zeus. Zeus, I feel more afraid of Zeus. I mean, I grew up culturally Catholic, right? I feel more like Zeus I think Zeus is scarier and stronger and more vivid and more real than God, just this invisible fucking God, right? Zeus is fucking badass. So as soon as he's born, you got these 5 men who's racing for baby Zeus. So then Zeus, right, baby Zeus crowns the winner with an olive wreath, with a crown, an olive wreath around their head. It became a peace symbol for some reason. And something about 4 years, 5 years, I don't know. There's 5 fucking brothers. The other Olympian gods, so named because they lived permanently on Mount Olympus, right? The Olympian gods, because they live on Mount Olympus. The Olympic Games would engage in wrestling, jumping, and running contests. So that's the story right there. Dactyl. These all might be gods too. I'm not for sure. I like a lot of the stories because it does make sense that the gods would envy the mortals because their chapters end, their story ends. So they got, whatever, 50 years to make a mark on this planet, and that's it. The games of previous millennia were discontinued and then revived by Lycurgus of Sparta, Ephitos of Elis, and Clisthenes of Pisa at the behest of the Oracle of Delphi, who claimed that the people had strayed from the gods. And because they strayed away from gods, that's why we have plagues and constant wars. Any of this sound familiar? Restoration of the Olympic Games, according to, Lycurgus of Sparta, Iphitos of Elis, and Clisthenes of Pisa, within the plague, usher in a time of peace and signal a return to a more traditional lifestyle, when things were nice, the good old days. The patterns that emerged from these myths are that the Greeks believed the games had their roots in religion, that athletic competition was tied to the worship of the gods, and the revival of the ancient games. So the revival of the ancient Olympic Games was intended to bring peace, harmony, and return to the origins of Greek life. So it wasn't uninterrupted. From 776 BC until 393 AD, it wasn't, Olympic game every 4 years, consistently. So there was a break, and that's why they said they had to bring it back, right? So they're bringing the Olympic Games back. I see a picture of a torch race, right, where I guess you run and you don't want the torch to go out, right, the Olympic Games. I don't know. Now I'm going to talk about the actual event, right, 1896 Summer Olympics. So fuck Theodosius. He's a fucking, the dorkiest. Fuck Theodorkiest. Let's talk about the heroes who actually got the Olympics set up. We all can thank Pierre de Coubertin. Pierre de Coubertin. It was held in Athens, Greece, the revival. It was organized by the International Olympic Committee, which is still around today, the IOC, created by Pierre de Coubertin, held in Athens, Greece from April 6th to April 15th. So perhaps this day could be the celebration of Olympic Games week, right? This whole fucking week, just, have feats of strength, go around wrestling and racing and running and jumping and lifting and stretching and basketballing and, biking. It's the Olympic fucking Games. How else can you celebrate the Olympic Games but by moving your body, right? Be like King David, by the statue of David. 1896 Olympics were regarded with a great success. The Pantheistic Stadium. What stupid words, man. Okay, so the Pantheistic Stadium was the only Olympic stadium used in the 1800s that overflowed with the largest crowd ever to watch a sporting event. So 1896, April 6th. It's still April 15th, so it's still April 6th today. I'm still, good in my parameters. Real quick, I want to mention the Tartars was the celebration of the Scottish people. It's like a huge thing. It's like actual national holiday. America, like we announced it, Bush announced it a couple of years ago. So the April 6th is celebration of Scotland. and also the last battle of the Civil War, Sailor's Creek. Robert E. Lee cried. Really odd was that the 1900 Summer Olympics were planned for Paris, so Greece didn't get their games back. It went back to Athens, Greece, just cause it's the original birthplace of Greece. But it went to Paris 4 years later, and then it wouldn't come back to Greece until the 2004 Summer Olympics, 108 years later. So Athens, Greece. Greece didn't get the Olympic Games for all these years. Isn't that crazy? But, it was because of specific individuals that the modern Olympics was, that came back. There was a resurgence. Pierre de Coubertin should definitely be congratulated. Also, there is a man who gives the money for that Pantheon Stadium, the big fucking stadium, right? Whatever that stadium, the Pantheon. So the initial cost was estimated 585,000 drachmas, but the restoration of the Panathenaion Stadium for the 1896 Summer Olympics was done at the request of Crown Prince Constantine. So they still got fucking royal families in Greece, right? The stadium was refurbished in 1895, 1 year before the Olympic Games, its second refurbishment in the 1800s, using white marble from Mount Penteli pursuant to Averoff's request. So he also served as a member of the reception committee for the foreign competitors at the Games. This is Georgios Averoff. So George M. Averoff, he is also a father of the Olympic Games, of the modern Olympic Games. So he needs to be thanked too. He's a Greek businessman, philanthropist, and he's the one who actually got the stadium completed. Without his money, then it wasn't a businessman. He made a bunch of money in real estate and banking. Eventually, he's going to die, right, just like everybody. He was known through most of his life for founding a bunch of schools in both Egypt and in Greece, and he helped with the, Panathenaic Games, the Panathenaion Stadium. So if it wasn't, thank goodness for George Averoff, because without George Averoff, we wouldn't have the modern Olympic Games. So let's all give credence, pay some homage to this man. And then you also have Pierre de Coubertin. And he was the second president of the International Olympic Committee, but he was the founder of it. So he didn't even, he's so humble, he didn't even designate himself as president. He's considered the father of the modern Olympic Games. He was born into a French aristocratic family. So this man is, legendary. The Baron of Amityville, His Excellency Pierre de Coubertin. He was, he studied education and history. This is the kind of man Pierre de Coubertin was. He's just got that mustache and that, top hat. He's just a good guy, just a good man. Pierre de Coubertin Medal, also known as the Coubertin Medal or the True Spirit of Sportsmanship Medal, is an award given by the Olympic Committee to athletes. So the International Olympic Committee still gives out Pierre de Coubertin medals. So that's nice. He got to stamp his name on every goddamn thing. But, okay, he organized the fucking thing. He's, we could thank a member of the French aristocratic family and some wealthy businessmen. So, you don't have to be, just because, you're wealthy, you don't have to be. April 6, 1865 became known as Black Thursday among the Confederates in the three engagements along Sailor's Creek. Robert E. Lee lost 1/4 of his army, and many of them captured. The Federals claimed 7,700 prisoners that day, including 6 generals. Lee wrote to President Jefferson Davis, "A few more Sailor's Creeks and it will all be over." And then Lee is going to surrender 3 days later. So Robert E. Lee's on a bluff. He's sitting there watching this Sailor's Creek massacre, right, where all the Confederates are trying to run away. Richmond, Virginia was, captured, and Petersburg was captured. So now the Confederates are trying to run to North Carolina, but the Union, all these Army of the Potomac and Ulysses S. Grant is right there on their fucking heels. So Lee just is on the bluff and he cries. This is Black Thursday, right? The Xianity Stadium was originally built in 330 BC. So this fucking stadium is old. And he rebuilt it with white marble, right? So that was nice. Of Georgios Averos. Georgios Averos. Thank you, Georgios Averos. Averos. And thank you, Pierre de Coubertin. Without these two men, we wouldn't have the modern Olympic Games. They had pole vaulting. This is 1896. These are the games that they had. They had pole vaulting. They had sprints. They had shot put, weightlifting, swimming, cycling, target shooting, tennis, marathon, and gymnastics were all events at the first Olympics. The swimming events were held in the Bay of Z in the Aegean Sea. Gold medalist Alfred Gutmann described it. I won ahead of the others with a big lead, but my greatest struggle was against the towering. So Pierre de Coubertin, his legacy has actually been kind of criticized. The Olympic game, their focus is on amateurs. They didn't like the professionalism. They felt that the professionalism was somehow undercutting the morality of the competition. And so what the critics are saying is that it has something to do with removing power from the working classes, so that way only the, I guess, upper classes can determine who's amateur enough or not. I'm not for sure. There's also something about peace. Pierre de Coubertin said that the peace aspect of the Olympic Games was over-exaggerated. He says that the peace only existed between athletes as they moved from country, in order to get to the Olympic Games. Then they were, had peace only then. And that was it. So it didn't prevent the outbreak of wars, nor did it stop any old wars. Olympic motto, Sidious, Altius, Fortius, faster, higher, stronger. Faster, higher, stronger. It was proposed by Coubertin in 1894, and it became official in 1924. So he's a good man. Check him out. The massacre of the Thessalonians is pretty fucked up. The Thessalonians, the massacre of Thessalonica. 7,000, were killed, and it was because they were protesting a Gothic, oppressor. And so they were pissed off at these German, Roman soldiers, and they, something about, there's a guy, a popular charioteer that had been arrested for a homosexual offense. He tried to rape a male cupbearer. But the people wanted him released, and the Butheric wouldn't release him, and then a riot happened. So the Eastern Roman army crushed the citizens of Thessalonica. Thessalonica was fucking, it was sacked, right? It was genocided. It was wiped out. Nagasaki. Fucking Thessalonica was Nagasaki by Theodosius the First, the greatest piece of shit to ever exist. Thessalonic. This is a city in Greece, right? Looks like Greece, but it's not. It's above the Peloponnese, the Peloponnesian, whatever that fucking island's called, the Pelops Island. So it says here it's the second largest city in Greece and the capital of Greek Macedonia. So that's Thessalonica, right? What the fuck? And people admire him?